the I don't want to draft a QB crowd today is going to be pulling for the Browns unlike anything you've ever seen. The Shedeur fans today are going to be pulling for the Browns unlike anything you want to see. Because like, seriously, if you win this game, you fall back to 5 or 6 in the NFL draft order, and you look at the teams that are going to be in front of you. Like, Vegas needs a quarterback. The Jets could trade up with one of these teams. They need a quarterback. Like, there are going to be only, 2, we think, quarterbacks that are going to be worthy of those top 5 selections in Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore. So, like, if Shedeur beats the Steelers today, of course the Browns could trade their 2 firsts together and scoot up. And you could always go get your guy if they identify somebody that they really like. But it could be a massive day for the future outlook on Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland if he's able to do the unthinkable and play well and beat those hated Steelers in his home stadium. It goes a long way. It really does.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing in this game too that like you can't fail to mention. Like, is it a big game for Shedeur just because it's another start in the National Football League? Yes. Does the scenario that we've talked about this segment obviously make that even bigger? Of course. But you want to talk about pressure on for a guy? Like, you essentially have an opportunity to potentially push this team out of a position to draft a quarterback. And I'm not saying handcuff them, because you mentioned, like, if you really want a quarterback, the Browns have the draft capital to go get a quarterback if they really want. Like, even if they drop back to 5, that puts them 3 picks in the top 37. You can move up in the first round with those picks if you really, really want that guy.
See what the Jacksonville Jaguars did last year.
Exactly. So, like, but I do sit here and it's like, okay, if you really want this, like if you are going to put this team in an opportunity, not to just to go, all right, well, we're drafting at 2 and here comes a guy that can absolutely just fall into our lap. And now it's just, do we want Shedeur? Do we want to use the pick on him because he's here? You put the question then further into, do we want to run with Shedeur, or do we want to trade, 2 firsts and potentially more to actually go get this quarterback? That conversation becomes a hell of a lot harder.
Then you're sacrificing fixing that offensive line that people are so upset about. And then the wide receivers, could you be content with another full year of just Jerry Jeudy? It definitely complicates things if you have to use both of those first-round picks in order to trade up for a quarterback. A lot easier if Shedeur plays well, where you could just sit back and say, hey, we're going to booster the offensive line. We're going to get him a wide receiver. Everything becomes a whole lot easier.
I do want to climb a little bit more into that, because I do think while this game is very, very important for the idea of, hey, if you push the Browns back in draft position, right, what we talked about last segment, then it's like, okay, we have to potentially trade to go get that quarterback. At least we think right now, because maybe those quarterbacks go 1 and 2, maybe they go 1 and 3, whatever that actually pans out and being, those guys could be gone by the time you're drafting at 5 or 6 or wherever you end up. At the same time, I do look at these 2 games, and I think that people miss out on part of what this evaluation was. And I said this back on Friday, and it had some people heated on social media, but I stand true on this, and I think it's completely where it is, where I think I look at Shedeur's situation in a similar way to I look at Kevin Stefanski's in one aspect, which is the fact that I look at this and I go, okay, at this point, I feel like you might not have your mind made up on whether or not you want to fire Kevin, but you have your mind made up on the type of coach that Kevin is and whether or not that's a guy you want to move forward with. At the same time, you've seen Shedeur play for 5 games, and I think your thought process of what he is and what he can be, at least right now for this year, potentially going into next, is pretty much close to made up.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, like, if you're the Browns and you're looking at this entire situation, and independent of what happens today, like, say you want to go into 2026 with Shedeur Sanders at least being an option, right? Because you don't know how the offseason's going to go. Maybe you wind up with a vet. Maybe you draft a rookie. We just don't know. Like, it's impossible to predict the future. But say that they're content is Haslam and Barry with the thought of Sanders being an option for 2026, well, then you've got to be content with Kevin coaching Shedeur for another 17 games potentially next season. And I just don't know if that's what they're going to want. Like, obviously, we're not in that building. We don't know the way that they're thinking about this. But if the answer to that is no, is that even if Shedeur is an option to start next season, and we're not cool with Kevin being around that for another 17 games, well, then you're probably bringing in a new head coach, and then maybe that guy would be a little bit more, excited about the opportunity to get his hands on a polarizing quarterback that it's shown some elite raw tools, but ultimately is a bit of a work in progress is the bigger picture. So I definitely do think while today does mean a good deal for Shedeur, I just don't know how much Kevin Stefanski can do. Again, it's not that I don't believe the reports that are out there that, that Haslam hasn't made up his mind and they're not sure what they're going to do with Kevin Stefanski. I just think as they have those meetings and they talk through all of those things, it'll become a little bit clearer that even with a win against the Steelers, I just don't know that that's a guy that you could push forward with.
But I feel like the conversation with Shedeur is very similar in this aspect of like, Shedeur goes out and wins this game. Is he going to change the Browns' mind on whether or not they think he has the potential to be a franchise quarterback? Like, are you going to look at this game and they came in with, I don't think he can do it. And then all of a sudden he wins this and they go, but maybe he can. Like, I don't see that.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, I think you've either identified him as a guy of, hey, like, maybe we can roll forward with this guy. Maybe he can be that type of, franchise type quarterback. Even if it's a development, like, it's going to take a year or two to get him to that point. I think you've kind of already made your assumption of, okay, he can do that, which is where this becomes okay, Shedeur has to, basically put the Browns out of a position to draft a quarterback to more solidify the fact of you get that opportunity next year. It's where I look at these two games, and they matter for Shedeur in that way of, okay, they matter because if you pick up wins, they really do mean something. But in terms of your individual play, what you're actually proving today, I think you're proving to people who don't think that you can do it, that potentially you can do it. I don't know that you're making that same sell to the Cleveland Browns today.
I will say, though, like to play devil's advocate, and this is speculative, like I don't know this to be a fact, but I'm pretty sure Andrew Berry does really like Shedeur.
He was hugging him in the locker room after the Vegas game, right? Like, he went in there to see Shedeur.
And there was another scene, I believe it was Mary Kay that put out there in her post-game story that even though the cameras weren't in there because it was a loss, like there was another embrace after the Buffalo Bills game last week. So like Andrew Berry, I believe, is a fan of Shedeur. And if he is, then I believe that Shedeur has to be a guy that they're looking to give every opportunity to. So like they're looking to be impressed by Shedeur today because they're already fans of him like we are. And they already potentially want to give him that opportunity for next season or even just for the future to be a guy in that room. So I think that's all positive. If you want to see Shedeur be an answer to this thing long term, is that he already has the GM in his corner, and we think that the GM is staying. So it's like play well today, and you could kind of cement Barry's belief that, yeah, you can be an option in 2026. And we don't have to package these 2 first-round picks together to go get a quarterback because then we're, hamstringing again. It's another year of playing with a hamstrung offensive line and having one of the worst wide receiver groups in the league. Like, you need to start addressing that stuff. And that's why we've always said, Jake, like, we have always been in lockstep on this. Like, whether you like Shedeur as a character or you don't, you can't ignore he is the best path forward because he allows you to solve a lot of other needs that you do still have.
Yeah, that still remains true today, right? If you want the Browns to be the best route possible moving forward, it is with Shedeur being the franchise quarterback. Not that you have to believe that he is that, but if he becomes that, that is your best possible path to this team getting good and getting good quickly. That entire thing becomes so interesting because I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I do think Andrew Berry liked Shedeur a lot. I think that throughout the draft process, they talked about Shedeur like they liked Shedeur a lot.
Yeah.
And listen, GM say a lot of things, teams say a lot of things. They were calling Travis Hunter the unicorn of the NFL, the Shohei Ohtani of the NFL, and then they went, oh, we can get a first and a second for this pick and not take... Okay, yeah, we're going to take that and we'll go Mason Graham at 5. Like, you can say a lot of things, but it does make it so interesting that, like, I didn't see Andrew Berry like embracing Dillon Gabriel after games. And listen, Dillon won games. Like, even after the Vegas game, did anybody sit back and go, wow, Shedeur just played lights out. Like, that was an incredible... I played fine, right? Like, it was okay. I compared it at the time, and I still feel like this is a fair comparison of Dillon's game to Miami. It was like, you are not the reason they won, but you certainly did everything that you needed to in order for this team to pick up a victory.
Yep.
I didn't see reports. I didn't see videos of Andrew Berry embracing Dillon Gabriel. So it's like, again, am I reading too much into it? Maybe. But it does feel like that's a guy that Andrew likes, and Andrew clearly went out and drafted, traded up in the 5th round to make sure they get him. But it's like, I guess that's where more of the questions come in with this organization, because if that's a guy that clearly you have a ton of faith in and you want to see succeed and you like what he's showing you on the field, you clearly liked what you saw on tape. Why is it that you were comfortable letting him fall all the way until the 5th round, giving other teams that many opportunities to draft him, then to move forward and be like, okay, but that was my guy. Like,
it's
that's
a
the
good
guy I
point.
wanted.
It's a good point. I wonder if some of like the infatuation with Shedeur was developed over time. Like, I wonder if they went and sat through, rookie OTAs and then training camp and all of this stuff, and they see that, there were reports out of camp that, like, at times Shedeur looked like the best quarterback of all the 4, and even though he was in such a small sample size with the reps, and I'm so sick of that conversation, but that conversation was there. So I wonder if it was more of an acquired taste with Shedeur, and then it kind of, the light bulb went over Andrew Berry's head just like it went over the rest of our heads, and being like, hey, this offensive line is pretty bad. Hey, this receiver room is pretty bad. If this guy can be a solve here, and again, it's a big if, that's the operative word, and it's doing a lot of legwork, but if he can be the resolution to what we're looking for, even if it's for the short term, even if it's for the next 2 or 3 years to get us out of this Deshaun Watson hellscape, then we could fix the offensive line. We can fix wide receiver if he could just help us keep head above water. And I think that's kind of where they're at right now.
Right, and I think that's the route that makes the most sense. I mean, again, do I think they liked Shedeur throughout the draft process? I do. I think that they liked him enough to say, okay, you got to the 5th round and we're going to draft him. Like, if you were infatuated with that quarterback, if you're Andrew Berry, even if Dylan Gabriel was Kevin's guy, something's telling me you would have went to bat very, very hard if you're like, no, I really think Shadore's the answer. And you probably win that battle, right? Like, hey, we take a guy that's projected to go lower. Do we really reach on Dylan Gabriel, or do I just put all my eggs in the basket of the Shedeur thing and I go out swinging my way?
It's weird.
Right?
It's so,
I would think
how did the 2 rookie QB thing happen? It is about to be 2026, and we still don't have the answer.
Still can't find it out. That's where part of this is so confusing, but I do like the idea that, hey, we like Shedeur enough to the point where we said he's not a 5th round talent. I think we can all agree on that. I think the Browns agreed on that when they went out and drafted him. They said, okay, like, again, when you say enough is enough, this guy's fallen too far, it screams that's not a 5th round talent. That's a guy we clearly had ranked higher. We took a quarterback in the 3rd round, and we went, okay, it's just worth it value-wise to have this guy on the team.
Agreed.
So it's like, clearly along the way, maybe you did. Maybe you sat here and you looked at it and you've seen him play a few games now, especially now watching him play against Buffalo and everything, and you go, okay, maybe this is a little bit of a project, but we see something in this kid. These are all things, though. Like, 2 games for Shedeur. I think your biggest thing, if you're taking it away, and he's maintained the right attitude throughout this thing, at least said the very right things when cameras are on and there's a mic in front of his face. I can't speak to anything that happens behind the scenes, and I mean that genuinely. I have no clue. Like, you sit here when the mics are on, he always says, I don't care what the stats look like, right? I'm shooting for a win every single week. If that takes me handing the ball off 100 times, then it takes me handing the ball off 100 times. But I'm in the business of getting a win. And right now for Shedeur, that's the biggest thing. Today is the biggest thing for you, not to go put up 500 yards, because that might not matter. Getting the win is the biggest thing that you can prove to anybody over these 2 weeks, because it makes everybody else's job to get rid of you, to push you down the line, to replace you, just that much harder. That is what you're proving today. You are proving that I can win football games, and hey, if I can win, not only does that prove something in this league, but that also makes your job a hell of a lot harder to go get somebody that's not me.